What a perfect way to wrap up day one. Through your example and your insights, you've provided us with the fuel. Some may call it the rocket fuel. But we really need this fuel to ignite our imaginations, energize our discussions, and tackle the enormous and very complex issues in healthcare that you've described to us. I'd also like to thank President Shakma and the Honourable Deb Matthews, who had to leave, for joining us this evening. I know the commitment is there from both of them to the work that Anne and her team are doing, so we appreciate that. I was thinking, though, between the four of us, between the Minister of Health, Dr. Shakma, Anne, and myself, we really do have the leadership and the followership to solve our healthcare quandary. Leadership in education, in government, leadership in healthcare, and leadership in business. And with this in mind, I'd like to close the evening with a few thoughts on the leadership/followership challenge that I think we see ahead of us. Bearing in mind, though, that we all bear an equal responsibility in solving this problem, if we could call it that, or imagining that great dream, which is to solve the problem for the future of healthcare. It's not just an issue for government. I think often we point to governments and say it's up to government to solve it. It really is an issue for all of us as leaders. Some of you may know that I was asked by the provincial government to participate in the work of the Commission on the Reform of Ontario's Public Services, otherwise known as the Drummond Commission, with the esteemed economist Don Drummond. The report won't be issued until the new year, but we are beginning to share some of our perspective on the challenges that we are addressing. We have calculated that for the Ontario government to eliminate the deficit, annual growth in government programs needs to be capped at about 1%. We know healthcare can't do that, so it's probably looking more like around 3% for healthcare. But it's a stark reality when you think about healthcare spending, which has risen an average of 7.6% annually over the past decade. And it threatens to consume 70 to 80% of the Ontario budget by 2030. Now, if you don't think that's a call for action and for change, then I don't know what is, because anybody managing their simple household budget and writing the checks knows that that's not sustainable in the long run. Moreover, the report that Anne released today at the International Centre for Health Innovation indicates that despite the rapidly increasing financial support we're investing in healthcare, Canadians are not getting the health care that they need or they deserve. Canada's sacred cow, which is universal health care, is badly out of shape. The good news, though, I am quite encouraged by the fact that no one is arguing for the status quo. Nobody says it has to stay exactly the same. In fact, it's the opposite. We're here talking about innovation. We're here talking about what can we do to change things. But I do believe that we have to bravely confront this together. The road back to health begins with, I think, an honest self-evaluation. I liked what you talked about, the culture at your hospital. I think people are having very honest dialogue about how they can improve things. Openness to change. You know, the question about what do we do at the end of life. We need to be open. We need to be open to different ways of doing things and to changing what are some of the sacred beliefs that we've held for the last 60 years. But I think more important than all of that is our commitment to leadership and to followership. We also learned from Anne this afternoon that Canada's healthcare system requires a dramatic cultural shift, just like the one that we heard from Dr. Williams. Imagine a healthcare system that places consumers at the center of the service delivery model. And I quote Anne, she called it consumers, because I can feel people saying, oh, you shouldn't call them consumers. But that's really what we are as citizens. We are consumers of healthcare. Imagine us being armed with the tools and the resources to manage our own health and our welfare in partnership with health providers. Or imagine training the next generation of health care professionals as expert coaches, as mentors, who are using their entrepreneurial thinking, who are asking those questions. How can we do this better? How can I help you solve whatever health problem it is that you are trying to solve? Imagine if we can get that entrepreneurial thinking going so that we can drive changes and embrace innovation. Now, these are major shifts, I think, in the way that we think and the way that we act. To achieve this kind of change requires strong people like you in the room tonight, who came to discuss innovation all day and tomorrow. You know how to create and support cultures of innovation. There's nothing soft and fuzzy about culture-driven leadership. You know, some people think, oh, that's the soft stuff. Well, you know what? The soft stuff is the hard stuff. It really is a challenge to create cultural change, and I was so impressed with what you have done in the hospital. I think there's actually a lot to learn from the recent financial crisis and its lasting impact. The cold, hard truth is that one of the most critical failings of the organizations that collapsed or fared very poorly during the financial crisis was a culture. It was a culture marked by an almost complete lack of what we call constructive dissent. In other words, many of these organizations, especially their executive teams, were afflicted by groupthink. Groupthink occurs when team members achieve consensus without critically testing, analyzing, and evaluating ideas. So effective leaders are the ones that welcome the dissent, the discussion, and the controversy. They strive to engender an organizational culture that values different opinions and different perspectives. And that is the only way to incubate ideas and solutions, to develop them and to put them into action. When everyone on the team feels engaged through an atmosphere of openness, honesty, transparency, problems are anticipated, opportunities are discovered, the best decisions are reached, and they're not afraid to share their ideas. So in thinking about healthcare, everyone at the table, whether they're representing education, government, healthcare, or the business leaders in this room, must work together. We cannot go back to business as usual. Our research has made it clear that even a program of restraint aimed at eliminating deficits, such as the one put in place by Harris government common sense revolution, is unrealistic in this period of slow growth and interest rates. Changes in government must be more profound and fundamentally shift to greater efficiency and lower cost, but at the same time, delivering and providing the excellent service that we expect as citizens. So we need to look at the opportunities that are available to us, and we need, as a group, to help assist to move these ideas forward. Last week, I was in Beijing for the graduation of our first customized executive MBA program for the Agricultural Bank of China. It was a program that we developed in partnership with the Bank of Montreal this past year. Now, I don't know if you know about the Agricultural Bank of China, but it's one of China's 4 largest banks, and by large, I mean enormous. It is one of the largest banks in the world, and for those of you that like the numbers, they have 320 million retail customers. If you think about it, it's every man, woman, and child in Canada times 10 has a bank account. 2.7 million corporate clients, 450,000 employees, and nearly 24,000 branches. Now, you would think that they could just count on a growing population alone to continue to prosper. But they did not sit on their laurels. They turned to a Canadian bank and a Canadian university, in this case Western, to educate their high-performing managers. So I think it shows great leadership born of humility, to know what you don't know and to seek out those who do. So we must be open to learning and to seeking solutions. These are times of great change. It will not be easy. Sometimes it may feel painful, But I think we all know it can be done. I think we all know that it must be done. There are countries in Europe that Anne talked to us about today that are providing in some areas some better health care and perhaps some better processes at lower costs than we are in Canada. So we must be open to look at these ideas and to adopt them. So I'm going to leave you tonight with a call to action. We must, as leaders and followers, be courageous in our thinking. We must be visionary in our approach to our solutions. And we have to be tenacious in creating a culture of collaboration and innovation. In turn, we must support our government leaders in driving sustainable change for the future that they are working so hard to do. Without our support and our help, it will be a much more difficult job for them and ultimately for us. So with that, thank you very much. I look forward to our discussions again tomorrow. It's certainly been innovative, Anne, and to you and the team, thank you very much. And again, Dr. Williams, thank you for getting the juices flowing so that we can start thinking about the changes that we need to make. You're a great role model. Thank you.